I've never seen a diamond in the flesh. I cut my teeth on wedding rings.
Dude, that's pretty cool.
Man, that is
I'm the
that
sad
is a
clown.
sad clown.
Proud of my address.
Dude, that's pretty good.
This is The Gloom, bringing you weekly interviews with F3 Omaha packs, exploring their F3 experiences and finding those sticky elements that create the glue in the gloom. Today on The Gloom, I'm excited because we've got a man who's the founder and former site Q at the Sanitarium. Also a guy who recently led our Catalina wine mixer CSOP. You may have seen him as a correspondent for one of the F3 Omaha partner kind of communication forums between two coupons. And also recently has started to help out by recognizing guys for celebrating their F3 anniversary. So some really cool stuff going on, but we're excited to have Knobs on the cast today. Knobs, one of the things that we've been trying to do is just get that story of your first workout, who brought you out, and also where does the name come from? I know there's a coupon out there with a bunch of doorknobs on it. I don't know if that's accurate. So tell us that story.
Yeah, so I was F3 is not new to me as far as understanding where it came from. I knew the origins of it. I had plenty of good friends from South Carolina and North Carolina who were posting on F3. I'd see them on Twitter doing their thing, and then just randomly one day I'm on Twitter and I see a pop-up with our very own Honey Stinger, and I see him out there after he had led a queue, I think, at the woodshed. And so I happened to see him the next day at one of our clinics, and I said, "Hey, tell me about F3 a bit. I know I've heard about it. I got buddies who are doing it, and give me a little more information." And he goes, "Dude, I was thinking about you. You are perfect for this. I just hadn't run into you. We didn't have each other's phone numbers. We were just two sales reps out there trying to do what we could." So lo and behold, that next Saturday, we met at the pit. So that was September 21st of 2019. Met at the pit, and the queue that day was Gunner. And in fairness, as a kid from Papillion, I parked at the Snake Pit, the football field, where thinking, okay, it's called the pit for a reason. This is where the pit is, and there was no cars, nothing. I knew nothing about shovel flags. I didn't know anything about what was going on. So I call Stinger up at the time it was a 7 a.m. start. Call him at like 7:02. Like, "Where are you, dude?" He's like, "Come on down, get down to the duck pond." I'm like, "Oh, okay." So I drive down to the duck pond. So I'm late to my first post, and that's okay. I try to make it on time from now on. But so we get there, and Gunner, in his typical Gunner fashion, God love him, he's got the most fantastic beat down, just simple, doing 21s on the basketball court, and just talking, and there's a bunch of guys there that were there that when I go back and watch it, you see Wentworth was there, and it was like in this first month of being with the Beta was there. There was a couple other guys that just aren't here anymore. Gipper was there as well, but Sourdough, just some random guys, Hightower, some good dudes that you see. You're like, all right, this is awesome. So we get into the point of Namarama, and they'll ask me about myself. So I told them I'm a pretty proud person. I went to the Citadel. I was a Marine. I was an artillery and infantry officer. So I'm thinking something cool like, big guns or like red leg or something like that. Something just like shot out of a cannon, just like, yeah, I'm just giving them, and I'm trying to feed it. And then Stinger goes, what's a freshman called at the Citadel? And I said, they're called knobs. Freaking hate that, And he's like, "Knobs is it. You got it." So from there on, and it took me a little bit to accept it as because where I came from, knobs was not it's not a term of endearment. It's not something you enjoyed being called. Some of the best and worst moments of my life was when I had Knob Austin in front of my, that's what I was called, was Knob Austin. So So Knobs kind of went there, and the story kind of stayed here. Didn't really tell anybody. And as fate would have it, I posted 1 or 2 times, had a little bit of hiatus there with some back stuff, and was trying to come back. And then old Stinger comes back in March of 2020, right in the middle of thick of things, the pandemic. Like, get your butt out. We're posting. Let's go. So I'll tap my hat to Stinger, and he really kind of kept me on the and then from then on, we just kind of went strong, and continued to push and accelerate here, in Papillion. So, yeah.
Well, I kind of want to focus on that first. What were your initial impressions of that first beat down? And then we can kind of circle back to that break in between September and March.
Well, as going to a military school and then being in the Marines for a bit, I was used to kind of endurance course stuff, but I'd also gotten quite a bit out of shape. When I was in my fighting weight, I was 165, 170, and I'm stretching 225 or something at that point in time. I had put on, so I was worried about throwing miles on. So the run to the basketball court from the pit wasn't too terribly far. We kind of had a few stops at the tennis court, and so it was probably a half a mile. So I was like, okay, this is good. And the beat down was right. I mean, it was simple. We did 21, so we did Merkins and big boys, I think, is what we did for 21s, and and then did some lunges and some sprints and stuff. And it was good. So it was right up the alley, hard enough. And as fate would have it, there was only probably 7 or 8 of us there, because the other side had the 2.0 workout was going on. So there was a 2.0 workout going on the other side of the pit. So there was a bunch of guys there with their kids. So I didn't really know what they were about and what they were doing. I just saw them going after, but the beatdown was hard, but it was right for me at that time. It was one of those things that kind of stuck. And I came home, my wife asked me, like, hey, what'd you think? I was like, I don't know, still feeling it out. I think I was resistant to change, I'd gotten complacent, resistant to being vulnerable again, and opening up, because I had slipped so far, if that makes sense, because I had mentally gone into some dark places that I didn't even know I was in, pre-com or post-combat stuff, just little things that you go through that you can really normalize a lot of things. So, and you don't realize that until you're having conversations with hymns, with people you trust. And because in my world, at times, if you open up, you can, or in my previous world, not really now, my company now, but if you opened up, that left you vulnerable, and it was eat or be eaten a lot of times. It was, it was shark time. So you didn't really open up and share because you didn't want to be exposed. So you had to be kind of a hard ass. You had to kind of really push through and not show any emotion, not show any vulnerability, because for fear of being taken advantage of, or being lesser.
That is actually a really interesting perspective. And, I think most men deal with that at a much lesser level, just in the world, right? Being vulnerable in front of other men is just something that doesn't come naturally to a lot of people. And I don't think our society is set up to a way to where we create a lot of forums or opportunities for men to do that. And I could certainly see where in the military in particular, where that could be even heightened, right? Like, you have this persona that you're putting on, and I'm not a person in the military. I'm not trying to speak on behalf, but I guess I could guess or assume that's how it may be, where you have this persona, you're this tough guy, and maybe opening up and being vulnerable isn't something that you guys come by very naturally or just do very often. So, I mean, that's very interesting. I kind of want to talk and circle back. You had mentioned, September, your first post, you posted here and there a couple of times, and then we were dealing with a little bit of injury. Maybe your headspace wasn't there. Maybe you weren't fully committed yet. Then in March, you kind of there's an uptick there. Was there something that happened in between that period, or was there something in March that clicked for you? Or I guess, what was it that kind of made you go all in? You started accelerating at this point. What was it that kind of got you to that space?
Um, I think I was sick and tired of being sick and tired. Um, you know, and it was one of those things where pandemic was just starting to, it was late March. So pandemic was starting to just go. And I saw the trends, the way it was going. And I know exactly where I was in my driveway, you know, pushing off some snow or something. And I got the text from Stinger saying, you're ready to go. And I was probably on my, you know, it's 8 o'clock and I'm on my fourth or fifth bush light, you know, and you know, because you had nowhere to go the next day. You're questioning, okay, what is my career going to continue as an outside sales rep? Is my career going to continue to be this way? What does it look like? So you're questioning a lot of things, and without knowing the sad clown, without knowing how low you were at that point in time, it's easy to kind of mask it. And I got sick and tired of being sick and tired. You know, you know, it was easy to have a drink or two or three or four at night and play cards with the guys online and talk via Zoom and do those things and kind of get into that. You know, but you've seen guys during the pandemic, especially people who are working from home initially. They either go one way or the other. Nobody stayed stable. They either went up or they went down when it came to mentality, came to weight, and it came to their family lives, all those things you've seen. And maybe it's a roller coaster for some, but I chose to, at that point in time, to say, okay, I'm sick and tired of this. I need to have this. I'm also someone who craves, you know, not attention, but craves communication, and having meaningful communication. And I felt I was getting that with my customers. Well, when we were trying to meet via Zoom and you couldn't get it, the only real live meetings I had for almost a year was F3, was my F3 mornings. That was the only time that I would meet live, and you know, I'd have coffee afterwards and we could sit in the parking lot of Dairy Queen or you know, wherever we went, Starbucks, wherever and that was the only time that I actually had some sort of interaction face to face besides with my family. So it saved me in that aspect, knowing that you know, being able to, you don't realize what you miss, and then you realize, okay, when it's gone, it's there, and then you brought with this equation of, okay, do I trust these guys? I think so, you know, and you start kind of tiptoeing your way in, and eventually you just kind of jump in with both feet and say, okay, it's time to own up to some of my stuff. It's also time to open up about some things, and you know, so I'm eternally grateful for the men of F3 Omaha, because they've embraced me and all my ticks and all my things. They really have kind of brought me in. So, yeah.
Yeah, I mean, you just mentioned something, just a quick phrase about, you know, do I trust these guys, right? You know, I think that is such an interesting question that all guys face when they come into this group. We're kind of tiptoeing this line of, okay, at what point am I all in, or what point am I trusting enough to open up and share my story or share some accountability with other guys? I guess for you, was it you were seeing regular guys and then that made you feel a little bit more comfortable? Were you having some accountability with Honey Stinger and I mean, I guess at what point are you like, okay, this is it for me. I'm ready to, you know, kind of be a little bit more intentional with my time here and how I'm sharing and opening up with people?
Yeah, I think it was probably pretty early where I started opening up. I mean, it took me a little bit. You know, now we have so many guys and we have so many different sites that are available, that you can get little silos. You know, we have them down in Sarpy. We can have a couple guys at a silo, but when I started off, I mean, it was, you know, Woodshed Fridays or Combine. You know, that's kind of, those are your options. And so you saw a lot of the same guys. So you started building that trust and accountability. And if you were quiet one day, you'd have somebody come up to you. What's up, man? How's it going? You know, how are we doing today? Having a good week? You know, so it was those guys that came around, and yes, Stinger was fantastic. You got Tater was great. You know, I'd say Firewalker and John Claude really kind of held me to the fire, you know, and really pushed me to you know, to push those bounds, to accelerate and not hold back. And when I say hold back, I'm talking about hold back with my heart and what's on it, because I think this is something that is probably not uncommon to me. Yes, it's hard to be vulnerable with what I'm going through, but it's even harder to be more vulnerable when you use that faith word. What does that mean? And that's the stuff that can scare some people away, because of that faith, component. And so sometimes it takes a little bit of explanation and allowing people to kind of dip in to see what they. So for me, I was not. I was raised, fairly religious, and but it was always something that was very private to me. I didn't feel comfortable doing that, so I just kind of said, okay, I'm gonna do a light sprinkling of the faith, but I'm gonna really get into the fellowship and the fitness aspect. And then now it's kind of come full circle where you're a lot more comfortable in sharing things with the guys. But that was the aspect that kind of came last for me with this group, not because it wasn't important to me, but it was so private to me. And how I dealt with that, and the spiritual readings that I would read in my privacy, and look up the daily breads that I would look up and read through just to kind of get myself right was important. So, but yeah, I think you think about any of these guys, they just were so great as far as coming up to you and hitting you on the shoulder and let's go, man, let's go.
Yeah. Well, and we just talked to Birdman recently about this, and one of the common themes was everyone comes for the first step, for your first time, right? And then there's this transition of, okay, there's other components to this beast that we have here that actually keeps people around. For the next thing, the second half, okay, well, yeah, it's the fellowship. I'm here for cafeteria. I'm here to get to know these guys. There's a community of people that genuinely care that I'm here or want to hold me accountable for being here. And then, like you're saying, then the faith aspect, right? I guess my question, I want to focus on that faith aspect is, are we doing a good enough job, you think, as an organization or as a group of facilitating growth in that aspect? Or I guess, and then a second question on top of that, what things have we done well that you've been able to use and really appreciate, I guess?
Yeah, no, I go. So I'll say one thing. I came for the fellowship. The fitness was what I had to do that. So that, if I'm honest, if I could have had the fellowship without the fitness, I would have been just fine. So that was, so that's what I came for. But that was really what I needed to do in order to get to the fellowship piece, because there is that shared misery, that shared bond after a good plague beat down, or you're getting after it, you're like, okay, that's what you have to do. So, but how do you determine a good job when it comes to faith? That's an interesting concept, because do I feel more spiritual now than I did 2.5 years ago? I feel more open with it. I find myself praying and leaning in more than I did. And I think that's also comes down with vulnerability, and that's also being vulnerable with yourself and saying it's okay. It's saying, hey, what it's okay, Knobs. It's okay, Budge. When I talk to myself, it's all right, Budge. You can do these things. You can lean on God. You can lean on whoever your Sky Q, or as some people would say, Skywalker. You can put it out there. Whoever who you're leaning on at that moment. So I think there are options for people when it comes to the faith aspect, because the third F component is, yes, we talk about faith, but there's a lot of charitable stuff around the third F. But when we talk specifically faith, we have those options. We had Grills and Greek Freak doing Wild at Heart if you wanted to do these things. We have options out there for people if they want to. I know Samples is doing a great job with it too. Like if we want to get more in depth with not a Bible study, it's a men's group kind of focused on faith. You can do those things. It's available for you. But if it's something that you're not really into, or you're still kind of like, I just don't know, that's okay too. Because if we look at it, how we're going to continue to grow within this. If the faith aspect is what keeps people away because it's too in your face, then okay, I think it's in the right space. Now, could we communicate a little better potentially on, hey, these are some options available? Yeah, definitely. I think so. But that also is because, we are such a big group. It is such a hard group to handle and manage. Is there a spiritual coordinator that's within our group here that's kind of helping to spearhead this and kind of push it out to the packs? And I know we have some plans here in the future to kind of help with streamline some of that communication across Omaha, just so it doesn't fall on one PAX member, one him. So it falls on a group to kind of help bring that, and that'll be great. It's not hard to find, it's really not. You can see it. You can talk to someone. You can reach out and say, "Hey, who do I talk to for this?" And our COTs lately have been a very faith-based a lot of times, with some sort of scripture, some sort of prayer that's focused on not only it's the needs of today, but like today our conversation was about value versus success. What do if you think about Einstein, I'd rather be someone who provides value versus being who's successful. And you think about that, how can you provide value? Well, in this case, value, when we're talking about faith, might be that just being there and saying, "Hey, you want a cup of coffee, man? Let's go have a conversation." Or a good plague question. How you feel like being a man today? How's it? What does it feel like today? Because there's things that go on. I mean, 2.5 years ago, I would have never have journaled. I would have never done a gratitude journal. I'm doing it. I'm doing it daily, or trying to say, "Hey, what are you grateful for?" Because it is something that does expand. And I know that's a long answer to your question, Pony, but I think it is something that if we want it, there are options for those. And if we go too much into that, you push some guys away. So there is a fine balance to it. So.
And that's fantastic the way you laid that out, because it is such a process, and you meet the guy where they're at, right? So if they come in looking for fellowship, over time they probably get some improvements in their fitness, and then that connects. So the way that 3Fs connect is really it's so unique, because we've even heard some guys say they showed up because of the faith piece, but then they realized improvements in fitness and fellowship. I'm curious for you, so you mentioned fitness was not a new thing. You were really more interested in the fellowship. Have you seen some growth in the fitness aspect? I mean, I think we've all probably seen, but how do you feel today compared to when you started? Are things feeling good from a fitness perspective?
Yeah. I mean, I still got to deal with some of the bugaboos of being 44 years old and trying to do burpees, and and there's a lot of pride involved in that. It's you want to bounce off the ground, but you don't bounce the same as you did when I was Pony's age. I definitely. I mean, I remember, because in Sarpy we really had the pit. The pit was the first go, and then we started this thing. Firewalker started the Sandlot. And it was a purely running, and I was like, oh, all right. Okay, here we go. So for me, it was and the Monday Murph. Then you do Tuesday, go to Coliseum. Wednesday was kind of usually a day off, getting ready for Sandlot, because I knew it was just going to be, in my head, brutal, because we started right there in July, and it was the hot period, and and I struggled with it. I really struggled to get past that 2 and 3 mile. I was running, 11, 12 minute pace. And for me, when I was in the Marines, I ran a sub 18 3 mile. I was a 16:45 guy. I mean, so for me to go that level for a 2 to 3 miles was, it was, I just couldn't, I didn't know how I got so far. So there were some mental struggles there. And I remember the first Sandlot run, I was running with soon to be named Nancy. He was still an F&G, and Nancy at the time was still active duty Navy, and we had to stop. He didn't have to stop. But he was kind enough to stop with me. I mean, it didn't matter. I mean, and we're running the trail, along the creek there. There's no hills, but every time we went down under a street, I walked up that hill because I could not, I mean, just couldn't, the air was heavy, my lungs hurt. So now, I'm not saying it was easy, but you're running CSOP and you're like, okay, let's do this. Let's keep going. The hills, the only thing that, stops me now is the injury stuff, so I just can't push my pace. Because for a while there, I'll give a shout out to John Claude and Firewalker for pushing and that stuff. But for the longest time, Squeaky Clean was my running partner. He and Schnapps and Jam Band and Squeaky Clean, we were 9:15 guys that ended up becoming 8 to 8:15 pace, 3-milers. I mean, so we were, in our eyes, crushing it. Now we weren't pushing the boundaries of 6:45s, but yeah, I mean, so if you think about, that was my apex, that was my measure of saying, hey, how am I doing? So now that was an acceleration, of a period of time where you just kind of see it going. You're like, okay, and pre-running really was something that came into play. Okay, I'm going to pre-run this. I'm going to pre-run the pit. I'm going to pre-run these workouts. Or I'm going to do a Smurf and a Murph once Titan Alley opened up. So you had those options that were available, that were closer. So you could feel like you could pre-run without getting out of the house at 3:15, or getting up at 3:15 to leave it, because there was, if you wanted to go pre-run Coliseum, for me, it takes 22 minutes to get to Coliseum. So that's a tough go. So you're like, okay, I'm going to go do this. So that's why it was good. Really, when we started seeing sites pop up in Sarpy County and Papillion, with Sandlot, Titan Alley, and obviously Sanitarium. Then shortly after, Danger Zone pops up. You got the farm. I mean, we just start, and then Stormbreaker. You're just starting to see everything kind of really accelerate and move in a good way here with the Sarpy County packs, and which is amazing. But I'm still so proud to see bulk majority of the packs at least posting one time a week going up to outside posts. To go up north, go to Woodshed, go to Brickyard, go into Spike on Fridays and Combine. Just people are accelerating and trying to branch out to different sites. So.
It has been really cool to watch, and you do have some runners in Sarpy. I think of like Trench, and I remember running with him one time, thinking I can't go any faster, And,
yeah.
I think one of the things I wanted to get your thoughts on was launching the sanitarium. So was that just to meet a need to fill that Tuesday gap for guys, or what else did you experience as you launched that site and tried to get it on?
Well, you would know, obviously, being first FQ, and you and Tater kind of cornered me, cornered me in at Vala's and said, "Hey, why don't you launch a site on Tuesdays?" So, okay, yeah, perfect. When you this is in October. When are you thinking? Like in March? That sounds good. And they're like, no, like next week. Let's find a site. Let's get going. And I was like, oh, okay, we're here. And I pushed back a little bit, like, am I the guy? Am I the right person for this? Is this, it was, and you were texting me, okay, when is this, when are we going live with this thing? We had like 4 pop-ups, like, okay, when is this thing going to go live? Is this anytime today? But, and that was mid-October, and we went live December 1st, of 2020, and just have continued to push since then. I would envision, my head, I was like, oh, we're gonna get 7 or 8 guys on average if we're lucky. And from the start, we had 13 the first week, and then we averaged 16 to 17 guys per week posting at Sanitarium. We had 12 VQs in a year. I probably miscounted. It might even be more than that. I mean, and the amount of growth and acceleration we saw from the packs in this area, where was amazing. Absolutely, just where we seem to have a VQ every week at Sanitarium, and I know when I came up with the name Sanitarium, it just it's not the most F3 name. It's not the most light and fluffy name. I had a vision in my head of like, okay, I want this to be just the hardest beat down. I want it to be this. I want it to be that. I want you to feel crazy when you're done. And then, so I was thinking Sanitarium. Okay, this is, but really, it was all of those things. There was a lot of hard parts involved, but there was also some good, just some but good, simple grinder beatdowns in the parking lot when we couldn't get to the track and the hill always. But it's still one of those things that you look at and say, wow, that was over a year ago that we grew this thing. And now when you're seeing, without a VQ, you're seeing 22 to 24 packs there. No, without VQs. So, and usually an F&G per week, and Swiper's done an amazing job of really kind of helping take that torch and accelerate it even more, bringing a lot of the guys from up north to Q, getting new, fresh ideas and thoughts downrange. So I'm super excited to see the growth that he's going to experience with Sanitarium. And I just, it is strange. I had a question the other day, and they asked me that, what is your favorite, what is your favorite site? What is your favorite place? And I said, for me, I still love the Woodshed. Woodshed is always, in my head, is always number one. But Sanitarium is still that near and dear. Like on Tuesdays, it's tough for me to want to go anywhere else. It really is. I try to give a little bit of space to Swiper as I turn it over, give a little bit, hey, remove some of the obstacles of me being there. And that was a little for me as well, but also just letting him, do his deal. So, but I love that site, and just continues. And it's also close to me because that's where I went to high school too. So it is one of those places that brings back a lot of memories. So
it's a great site, and it has been fun to watch the growth over time. Do you feel like, as a site queue and kind of just in the phase of growth Sarpy was in, did you have an opportunity to mentor some guys and kind of get guys to do their VQ, that sort of thing? Was that available to you as a site queue, or how did that work with that role as the new site was launched?
Oh yeah, I mean, I think that was it came naturally a lot of times at times for me, and I was always kind of, I had my trust circle, my firewalkers and John Cloud I reach out to, and I throw Gobbler into it, and Lucky when he came down, hey, these guys, the trust circle, hey, what do we got going? What's hey, these are things I'm struggling with. What do you think here? But no, I think the way, and I think it comes down to the vulnerability aspect. If you try to act too big time, you try to act a little too special, hey, you're not genuine, then people see through you. And if you're not coming from that heart of caring or heart of a teacher and mentoring others, because as much as I'm mentoring or leading by example, I'm also learning from them. You got these young guys, the trenches early on. You got Trench, Tony the Tiger, High Life. Ferdinand. These guys. I mean, I remember Ferdinand's VQ were flipping tractor tires. I mean, and he brought them all the way from Springfield in the back of his truck to the Sanitarium. I'm like, who does this? Fantastic, amazing. So and you got to just kind of let these guys run and say, hey, I'm here to support you. Whatever you need. I mean, you think about High Life's VQ, we had to call an audible and do it in the Home Depot parking lot because we couldn't even get into high school. But the guys just loved it, embraced it, and so those early months of the Sanitarium, were some of the best and worst. I mean, Baby Shark it was that polar vortex week. That was his VQ, Baby Shark. So we're at -24, just crushing it out there. The VQ for Girl Dad, the danger zone where we're breaking sleds, sliding down there and doing burpees at the bottom of the hill and running back up. It was, you didn't even know you were exercising, but it's a 600 calorie burn, but you're just rocking it and having so much fun and laughing. So it just became kind of a ruckus and such a good time that it was almost like you talk to people about F3 and you'd be like, you should be here. It's fun. This is a good group of dudes, and they're, it's working out, but we're having a ton of fun. There's so much energy in here. When you leave, you're shot out of a cannon. Like, I'm ready to get this day. Can I start now? It's those kind of things where you really just are so energized and ready to roll. You feel invincible at times when you're done with those, especially those bigger workouts where it's just just feels special. So,
Yeah. Well, and being there for somebody's VQ is like, because you will forever have that memory along with them, and
yeah.
it's a really special thing. As we're kind of wrapping up here, get your thoughts on a couple things. So, the PAX kind of varies, right, throughout the region as to what they can participate in and just how we engage different folks. But we are trying to get a good sense, like what sort of advice or encouragement would you give to a new guy that shows up in SARPE, or what advice would you give to the PAX as new guys are showing up? How do we keep guys engaged across the region?
Yeah, I think it's a question everybody ponders and thinks about. Okay, because we've had our fair share of FNGs that come in, and and whether they get a great name or an awful name, it's how they connect and how they feel when they come in, and how welcomed are they. I know myself and a couple of the PAX members down in SARPE, when we have a new guy come in, we don't keep on them, but we send them a quick text like, hey, thanks for coming. Here's some here, because it can be overwhelming if you send websites and do all these things. You just kind of have a softer approach. Hey, we have workouts, if it's a Monday Murph and they come, we have a workout, beat down tomorrow at Papio High. You don't call it sanitarium. You can't, they don't, a lot of the more simple and the less words we use that are F3 to add some normalcy to it, it kind of helps out. They'll get the lingo when they're into it and when they're going, but I think it's just trying to find some kind of connectability with them and saying, hey, because the number of PAX that we've lost that haven't been put into MailChimp, or because of somebody forgets to do. I mean, and I'm susceptible. We made a mistake at the end of CSOP. We had 3 FNGs at CSOP, and not a one of us got their information. We have 3 site queues there, but not one of us said, hey, let's get these guys info. We had to kind of scram to get it, and you're like, okay, that was a miss, but it was just because we were so in the moment. So those things do happen, but I think if you can find some sort of connection, first of all, who EH'd them, and I think that's always a good thing. Reach out to them. Hey, make sure you reach out to whoever it is to say, hey, loved having you out here. Kind of dip your toes in. Here's our schedule, because there's not everybody's going to be, a Farva where like I'm in, or a Swiper. Like Swiper just saw it on Twitter because some of his neighbors are doing it, and he's like, I'm in. And he started pre-run day one and just going gangbusters. So not everybody's going to be that way. Some people are going to be a little like more intimidated, kind of dip it in a little bit, dip out, and so I think if we can find that connection piece, and I think for us, at least on the SARPE side, the biggest connection piece that we have is we have coffee on site. When you have, and we were talking about this morning after Sandlot and Steel Mill, when you have coffee on site, that it really adds, because there's a lot of guys that they're not, if they get in the car, they're going away, but they'll give you 5 minutes on site for coffee. So it is a little extra thing, and I know it can be extra expense with Dunkin' or extra time if you're making it at home. John Claude started that really at Titan Alley, and obviously Khakis Cafe is amazing on Mondays, where he's got 30 and 40 dudes in his yard, in his garage, going with coffee. And God blesses M, God, that she, is so open to let everybody do that, because not everybody's set up for that. But I think what those things, those special points really kind of open up, because it is that allows for when you're sitting there with a cup of coffee and you say, hey, this is what we're doing here. Because sometimes when we're doing our prayers and when we're doing our and people just leave, it doesn't it's like, oh, okay, that was fun, that was nice, maybe I'll see those guys around sometime. But when you have a one-on-one with somebody, you can say, hey, what's your number, man? I'm going to shoot you a text, give you a call, just reach out. And that's where that mentoring program you asked for boards, it's just kind of a softer sell to say, hey, we're here, we're a good group, because some people, might think, oh, are they trying to sell something to me today, or what are they doing, but in this case, it's like, okay, hey, we're going to be here on Tuesday. We're going to be here on Wednesday. This is a Thursday option. There's 2 there, just, and if you have it in their backyard, it really does help. So for me, I would think some of the biggest connection is just the packs that are here and how open they are and how welcome they are. Plus having that extra touch point of coffee never hurts, so.
I also think, the thing you're doing too with calling out guys that have an upcoming anniversary, I think that's an important piece where, we used to only know about that if the guy happened to, on his own, kind of sign up to Q on his anniversary, and then we would see it that way. But there's a lot of guys out there that have been in F3 for a while, and it'd be interesting to see if we put that out there, and some of the guys that have fallen off, if they come back.
Yeah, that's exactly the intent. Is I was. I talked to Tater and I also talked to Slow Pitch about it. I said, hey, this is what I'm thinking. And I still have to submit. The February one's done. I just need to put it out there. I was out of town this past week with more funeral stuff. But anyway, so I just was kind of out of my mind space to send it out. But that was the thing. It was like when we think about it's in January and you put EH by. And you see these, so you're that, and there's guys that are on there like Slow Pitch saw, he's like, oh, yeah, I need to reach out to him. I need to call him and check and see what he's doing. Like I EH'd him and he's kind of fallen off. I haven't forgotten about him, but it's a prompt or a reminder to say, hey, where's that guy been? Because guess what? No matter what, everyone decided to take that step at some point in time. Whether that step continued or it was just a one-off situation, everyone decided to take the dark red pill and come that day, and they just did it. So there's a special part of it. It's like, okay, hey, you got your name now. I also think if you name someone a really bad name, they're not coming back. So we got to be. There's some funny ones, but you also got to be mindful of it takes a little bit for people to embrace it, and I will say, one example is, Skids. You were on the queue that day and you were going to name him Delsum or something like that. And I was like, we can't do that. And my M got on me. She's like, what kind of person are you that you would suggest that he be named Skids? You realize, I go, yeah, you're probably right. God, it just was so, and talk about somebody who's really kind of embraced the name, saying, okay, but it could have gone the other way. You could also push people away. So, and those are things where we also all have to be mindful of those things too at times, and just make sure that it is something that's something that connects to. But also, some people just have to suck it up and realize, okay, your name's not great, but let's church it up a little bit. Let's embrace it. So and have fun with it.
I love that. I do want to just take a moment and so thank you so much for just all of your insight and wisdom that you've shared. I think there's so much that guys can learn from you. I am curious, as guys see you out in the gloom, is there anything you're needing encouragement or prayers on? If we see anything, we could say, hey, pick your head up. We got your back. Anything you need there?
Oh, from the packs for me?
Yeah.
I think for me the biggest thing, I took a week off because of just being gone and dealing with some of the emotions of it. Like, okay, just need to. And then I would just say my father passed away in October, and so when you have a tragic event like that, you can there's a couple places you can go and kind of be reclusive and be inward. But I would just say the packs of F3 Omaha and the Sarpy guys were on me. Like, hey, we're here, man. Let's do this. They were supportive in any type of endeavor. We've got something going on in Sarpy right now with one of our PAX members. His daughter is going to have open heart surgery. Just found out yesterday. She's 3 years old. And I'm not going to really put too much of a blitz on it, but it'll be within the confines of F3. But there's going to be a lot of prayers for Paisley. So those are things that weigh on our hearts and our minds, not just our own families and what my needs are. My needs are minuscule compared to what that family is going to need for their daughter. So it is one of those things that you can look at and say, hey, the prayers are all there for everybody, but I think that you look at it and say, hey, there's other people who are suffering. So when I go to any site, for me, it's important. I have to bring a good energy. That's important to me. Even if I'm dragging or whatever, I'm like this morning, I'm like, wow, we could have used some core. We could have used some core today, in the steel mill, because it was nothing but, and I'm talking my animal house. I'm like, could have had a fourth station and maybe and do something here with some core, but this is awesome. Just kind of just keeping the energy and having fun with it, because I think there are people who can get a little inward, a little silent, and I don't like a quiet room. I don't like a quiet room at all. It drives my M crazy. But I'm always, and sometimes she'll be like, okay, give me a moment here. So
that's good.
But
this has been awesome. Let's so Pony, I think, had another obligation, so I'll try my best to remember his age here. We'll do a little panorama. So Brandon Flehardy, 36, The Plague. John Whitworth, 30, Pony Express.
Express. Budge Austin, 44, Knobs.
Thanks, man. Appreciate your time this morning. It's fantastic.
Thanks, Blake.
Have a great day, man.
Thanks, Pony.